Good afternoon and welcome to another segment of Northport, A View from Here. My name is Gene Matthews and I'll be your host today. We're fortunate in having members of the Venice Foundation here today. The Venice Foundation is a recent newcomer, if you will, to the South County area and have done a lot of beneficial things for our citizens. I'd like to introduce the CEO, Chief Executive Officer, John Preiksat, and also Denise Roberts, who is the Program Manager, Director of Management Programs.
You can call me anything you want, Gene. It's okay with me. Managing Director of Programs.
Managing Director of Programs. I always have problems every week with those titles. So John, we're going to start with you. What is the Venice Foundation? How did it start? What's its roots? What do you do?
Well, Venice Foundation has very interesting roots. We were created on September 1st, 1995 from the sale of Venice Hospital. As you recall, Venice Hospital was sold to the Sisters of Bon Secours. The proceeds of that sale, which netted around $100 million, was given over to the Venice Foundation to provide primarily grant making to the community of South County, covering the areas of Osprey, Laurel, Nokomis, all of Venice, Northport, all of Englewood, down to Boca Grande.
Mm-hmm. What are the goals and objectives of the foundation?
Well, I think the primary goal is we, in our grant-making activities, we support all kinds of charitable activities in areas arts and culture, civic affairs, education, and
Health and Human
Coming
Services.
from the hospital, right?
Yes, coming from the hospital. It's Health and Human Services throughout South Sarasota County.
Okay, Denise, one of your chores is sifting through all the requests for grants and so on and so forth. How do you go about it? You know, what is the process that you use? Because many Northport organizations, I'm sure, will be submitting in the future and have already submitted in the past.
Well, let me just say that the staff at the Venice Foundation does not determine who receives a grant and who does not. We're there to be facilitators. So if you were interested in applying for a grant, you would call the office and ask to meet with me or with Ruth Ann Brown. We would sit down with you, talk with you about your project, make sure that you were eligible, that you were federally tax exempt and had all your paperwork in order. If you wanted us to, you could draft a proposal and we would help you rewrite it to make it more compelling, because we know what tends to work and what doesn't. We then take those proposals and assign them to volunteers who serve on the 4 committees representing the 4 areas of interest that John described to you. Those volunteers then visit with the agencies. Typically they'll go to your site, but if you don't have a location, they may just interview you at the office. And they'll ask a lot of hard questions because it's a very competitive process. The volunteers come back together and often have some very stimulating discussions about what they feel should be funded and what they feel should not be funded. But by the end of the evening, they reach consensus and they send those recommendations to the board of directors. The board has the final say. The board will fine-tune those committee recommendations. They don't take them and just rubber stamp them. The board has make sure to visit as many of the sites as the board members possibly can, so that they're really having a meaningful decision when they make their decisions at their meetings in October and April.
Yeah, you say that they have to qualify. That's kind of a broad statement. What are some of the qualifying factors? And maybe you can explain what a 501c3 is.
Okay. An agency does not have to be a 501c3, but a 501c3 is a federally tax-exempt organization. If you're federally tax-exempt, as a church might be, or a school, or a chamber of commerce, you're not a 501c3. However, you're still eligible to apply. Big Brothers Big Sisters, Boys and Girls Clubs, the Red Cross, these are typical 501c3 organizations. They're exempt from taxes, and they're able to accept gifts, and the donors are able to write those gifts off. The Venice Foundation itself is a 501c3, but that may be getting a little too technical. So we want to make sure that you're federally tax exempt, and we want to make sure that no matter where you're located, you serve a lot of people in the communities John named, South County down through Boca Grande.
And that is the community, the area we cover?
Right. It really starts in Osprey. When you hit historic Spanish Point, you're at pretty much the northernmost nonprofit in our region.
When you say that donations are tax exempt, it means that...
tax deductible is what I should have
that
said.
means if people make a contribution to the Venice Foundation, they can take that, use it either for estate planning or for a direct deduction for that tax year.
That check for $10,000 that you're giving us at the end of the show, you'll be able to write that off next year.
Well, okay, if you can catch me, you can have it.
Okay, good.
John, there are three major foundations in Sarasota County: the Selby, the Community Foundation, and now the Venice Foundation. How do these foundations interact, and what's some of their impact on a community?
Well, let me answer the last question. The impact is tremendous. The three foundations together have assets in excess of 1/3 of $1 billion. That's right here in Sarasota County. The differences between the three are, I don't want to say unique, but mainly due to their roots. Selby Foundation was founded by William G. and Marie Selby back in the early 50s as a part of their estate plan, and we're all familiar with the philanthropy of the Selby Foundation, Selby Library, Selby Botanical Gardens. The Selby name is almost synonymous in Sarasota County with philanthropy. The Community Foundation was formed about 20 years ago, and it was formed by a group of estate planners, attorneys, trust officers, lawyers, who decided there was more need in the county, and because Sarasota County is an affluent county, they came up with the Community Foundation to raise funds to support various charitable activities throughout the county. And they've been very, very successful at that. Again, they fund throughout the entire county. Now, the Venice Foundation, we're the newcomers, you say. We were formed in 1995. And again, our primary thrust is supporting the charities of South Sarasota County. However, the three of us work together primarily in areas that overlap all areas of county: public education, transportation, alcohol and substance abuse. We're now working, three foundations have funded a project to do a countywide, what we call visioning process. It's called the SCOPE project. Again, to look at where we are now in Sarasota County, where can we go in the future. And I want to say one thing: while we are the three largest foundations in this county, there are numerous other foundations that support activities quite large. The two hospitals each have a sizable foundation. Hospice has foundations, and there's a lot of foundations. This is a very, very foundation-rich community. We're very blessed when you look at the size of the county geographically and the size of the county in terms of population. And when you look at we are very blessed to have the three foundations.
Well, thank you very much for that information, and we'll be back to you in a moment.
Have you seen Northport lately? Take a minute and take a look.
We really do enjoy nature, and we found it all here, right in our own backyard. Love fishing and boating on the Mayaca. You never know what you might see out there. We toured the whole state of Florida and found that Northport had everything that we wanted.
There's a lot of natural beauty, and there's a lot of wildlife here. I love the open spaces, and I love the quiet.
If you're intrigued by what you just saw, pay us a visit, and you'll see a lot more.
Welcome back to the second segment of Northport, A View from Here. We are talking today with John Preiksat and Denise Roberts of the Venice Foundation. And Denise, you've held other positions in foundations elsewhere. How do you view the South County and Northport in particular as to its strengths and weaknesses and needs too?
Well, I came here from Cleveland, and the needs there were much greater than they are in Sarasota County. While we have plenty of needs, we don't have the grinding poverty that we had up in Cleveland. But having said that, I was with a scholarship program up in Cleveland that helped thousands and thousands of students go on to post-secondary education. Working on scholarships at the Venice Foundation, the kids in Northport have a tremendous amount of need, and they, while again in Cleveland they didn't get a lot of guidance about what to do with their lives, it's even worse here. No worse in Northport than it is in North County, but this is a problem in Sarasota County. Kids are not really given the tools they need to move on and go on to some form of higher education. So I would say that's one of our greatest weaknesses, is we're not preparing our young people for the real world after school. The strengths are so many. I think the one that I would have to point to, this is again throughout Sarasota County I get this feeling, but even more in South County and even more in Northport and Englewood than I do in Venice, and that's warmth. The people in your community really care. They care about each other. They care about the kids. They want everything to be wonderful, and most of it is. And I think with the help of the Venice Foundation, it'll get better and better with groups like the Boys and Girls Club and Lighthouse Baptist Church providing after-school and summer activities for kids. Those organizations will help the kids in ways to supplement what the schools can do in getting them prepared for life.
Well, quite frankly, it's overdue, the attention that Northport is getting now, and we're really grateful to the Venice Foundation and to the others, Selby and the Community Foundation, for discovering Northport. Mm-hmm. We really are a nice community to live in. John, in order to do all these wonderful things, we need money. Mm-hmm. And how much does the foundation have, and maybe give a little idea of how it's managed and mm-hmm. And what you expect to see in the next couple of years with the funding?
The amount of money right now, we have about $165 million in our unrestricted endowment. And it's managed, we have an outside team of investment managers that manage various pools of money, whether they be equities or bonds or fixed income or index funds. Their activities are overseen by an independent consulting firm that makes sure that they're performing according to their performance standards and according to the investment policy by the board. But all the final decisions about our investments and management of the funds, and obviously the use of the funds, as Denise said, through our grant making, is done solely by the Board of Trustees.
The Board of Directors?
Board of Directors.
Okay. And we have a committee, John, that's called the Donor Services. If you could explain this committee to us and the reason it's so important in today's world.
Yeah. Well, maybe Denise can touch on it later on, but one thing we found, although we are very well endowed, there's never enough money to address all the needs in our community. And also, as part of our role as a community foundation, we should be educating the community about those needs, and also helping those organizations such as the Boys and Girls Club and other not-for-profits to fulfill their financial needs. So what we want to do with our donor services plan is to match community needs with the strength of the Venice Foundation to hopefully be able to fund as much of the community needs that we possibly can, because in any grant cycle we never have enough money to give away to support all the grant applications.
About how much do you give away a year?
Right now we're averaging around $5 million a year.
That's a sizable amount.
Yeah, and it keeps growing.
And the need to make the foundation grow through that donor service?
Yeah, and that's the idea, is obviously maybe Denise can give some statistics on how much money is requested versus how much money we actually give away as against that $5 million. There's quite a gap, and it's really tough on the board and the grant screening committee volunteers in making these very tough decisions on how to allocate that money.
Over 7 grant-making cycles, the amount requested, it's like a roller coaster. The only pattern is that there is no pattern. That's the one thing I can tell you. But it averages out to a request of, I think, about $5.8 million requested per cycle. Now, if we have $2.5 million to give away, obviously a lot of things are going unfunded. Some of them don't deserve funding. The board is absolutely right. The committees are right when they say let's not fund that, but there are a lot of good projects that have to wait.
Let me just interrupt for a moment. You said 2.5 million, and then we said
well,
5.5.
There are 2 cycles per year. Yes, you can apply January 15th or July 15th, and if things stay the way they're going, we'll have 2.5 to maybe a little bit more to give away twice a year. So that's why it's about $5 million a year. So obviously not everything is going to get funded. This particular cycle, we have a deadline Thursday. I'm predicting the requests will be in the range of $8 million. Obviously, a lot of good things are going to go unfunded. And in scholarships, Gene, we were only able to give money to about 1/3 of the applicants and left an awful lot of kids without that funding.
How does the board of directors view the scholarship? Is it a high priority, an average priority, and what are they doing about increasing the amount of money?
Well, I think that almost to a member, the board is very passionate about the scholarship program and they realize that we have an opportunity to make things possible for these kids. I think every scholarship is every bit as important as every grant to an agency, maybe more important, because if a kid doesn't get that grant, he may not go to college and may never have improved opportunities in life, whereas an agency can come back in another cycle and get a grant. The board is committed to doubling the size of our scholarship fund and will largely, I think, do that through the donor services programs.
And we're looking for, of course, gain from our investment program.
Correct.
What about gift giving or gift making by individuals?
Yeah. Basically, any individual, and you don't have to be a wealthy person, can make a gift that will make an impact in our community through all kinds of things, either outright cash, gifts of stock, gifts of property, whatever they can give, we will make sure it gets put to the best use in our community. So we're not just raising money for the sake of raising money. We're raising money to help those agencies provide those services.
And this also going to be part of your estate planning?
Yeah, estate planning, and we're working with attorneys, accountants, financial advisors, stockbrokers, trust officers, and again, helping them educate their clients, one, about the needs of the community, and two, how they, through their own philanthropy, can use the Venice Foundation effectively as a tool of their philanthropy.
You were talking before about most of the money in the foundation being an undesignated category. What happens if someone says, I want to see this go into scholarship, I want to see it go into an education program? Can it be designated, or must it be taken in undesignated?
You mean if someone wants to make a gift?
A gift to
yeah, we will accept obviously any designation, one that's not illegal, immoral, or unethical.
Okay.
But basically, any reasonable designation will be gladly accepted.
The donor has to agree to our investment policy and spending policies, and there are a few things, and obviously we have to make sure that their intent matches our intent, but it typically does. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for people to honor a family member by setting up a scholarship program in that person's name. Maybe someone who's died, do it as a memorial, or someone who's alive and you just want to say, hey, you're wonderful, and instead of buying you another pair of socks and a tie for Father's Day, I'm going to set up the scholarship fund for you and help a kid go to college.
It's so important in today's world to help these kids. The South Sarasota County Resource Center over near MCC is now in operation. What was the foundation's role in this, and what's in there to give the folks of Northport a better feel?
The foundation made its largest grant ever to the South County Resource Center. That was $600,000 early in our career. I think it was in the second grant cycle. There are 14 agencies housed there. There is room for growth. I was talking to Kathy Bayless about it today, as a matter of fact, and right now it's at capacity, but there is land there where they could add on. The agencies include a wonderful facility for the county health department, which is going to include an evening clinic for uninsured and underinsured people who are who are younger. They haven't reached Medicare age. So that's a large facility. We have Jewish Family and Children's Services, which provides tremendous services in Northport, particularly with the frail elderly homebound with psychological and sociological problems. I've observed that program firsthand in Northport, and it's absolutely marvelous. We have Lutheran Services, which serves many Northport residents in their guardianship program. Spark, Safe Place and Rape Crisis Center, is housed there. The list really goes on, but there are so many facilities close to Northport that they didn't have before. It's a wonderful resource.
Well, that's an exciting program. I'm glad you're a part of it. We'll be back in a moment for the third segment.
There's a rumor that small-town America has all but disappeared.
Life is great, Northport.
Northport is the last Mohican. This is the place, this is going to be the last undeveloped region. The city government itself is so pro-growth, and it's just like everything is in the right place at the right time for Northport. They're very open-minded, they're very honest, and they're very fair.
Disappeared? You've just seen evidence to the contrary. We call it Northport.
Thank you for waiting for us on our third segment of the Venice Foundation. And we're going to start off with John. John, the Venice Foundation has a committee called Needs and Initiatives. And we know we feel we know that the standard gifting procedure is someone comes in, requests money, and they either get it or they don't get it. It's an oversimplification. But what does the Needs and Initiatives Committee do?
It's a committee of the board, and early on the board felt that there were certain areas in terms that were not being covered either in terms of grant requests or agencies providing services, or certain unique things that really no one, one of a time type things no one was really responding to. And so the board put together this committee to look at the needs that are not being met and to take the initiative on its own instead of waiting for a grant application to come in. Some of the areas we did was gun locks. If as a result of the, it seems like every spring we have shootings in middle schools, but there was the one last year, '98, Jonesboro, and those, for Father's Day, we handed out 3,000 gun locks. Quite overwhelmingly successul program.
And these were donated to individuals?
Yeah, just basically if you came in and said, I have 2 or 3 guns, we gave you gun locks. And we used the other agencies, the Y, the Boys and Girls Club, and other agencies throughout South County to distribute. It was quite a successful program, successful beyond our wildest imagination. Another one Denise worked on is when the state of Florida passed a bicycle safety helmet law for kids riding bikes. We went directly to Bell Helmet and bought boxes and boxes and boxes of
and reordered
of bicycle helmets, and again gave them out through the Y, the Boys and Girls Club, and other
PDs, police department,
that sort of thing. Some of the things we're working on now is we're looking at CPR training for the average citizen. I mean, you can go and get certified, but there's a need out there for people like us who are not EMS technicians or whatever, but have to know the basics of CPR training. And we're looking at other areas in terms of providing unique needs that no one else is addressing. And then hopefully, maybe through our example, some agency or someone will pick up the ball, carry it forward.
Okay, and again, some of these needs and initiatives are worked with other foundations?
Yeah, we try to bring in as many. We try to bring in as many as we possibly can, and other agencies. Again, we're not there to run the program, but basically provide these resources, gun locks, bike helmets, for these agencies to give out to their clients.
And what about in the school side? What have we been doing?
There we stumbled across a unique thing. Panasonic Corporate Foundation years ago started working with school districts on district-wide issues. And instead of giving grants to individual teachers and schools or whatever, which we'll still do, is there's certain issues that are across the board that need to be addressed on a school district-wide basis. So again, the Venice Foundation, the Selby Foundation, and the Community Foundation basically consulted with the folks at the Panasonic Foundation and are now working with the Sarasota County School District in providing technical assistance. Some of the areas we're looking at is a big issue now is school readiness. Are kids really ready to start kindergarten? Working with the daycare centers and whatever, that sort of thing. School to career, big issue now is, you know, a lot of our students do not go on to college, 4-year college, 2-year college. Making sure the students, when they get out of high school, are prepared to work, go into the workforce. And also another big issue for teachers, professional development. Technology, whatever being what it is, things change a lot faster than they are. So we're making sure that our teachers stay on top of the latest techniques in education. So we're providing consultants to come in. And then also, near and dear to your heart, we're working with the folks in Northport on the design of their new high school.
That's great. It's a worthy cause.
Yes, excellent cause.
It sure is. The scope of your services is really exciting because it touches everything. It's proactive. It's looking at things in the future. I know that you're doing a transportation study, which will look at all the transportation problems within the county, and hopefully we can find some things that will provide solutions for people in getting around. So that's really neat. Denise, you've been with this program since the beginning, and you've worked with outfits or organizations in Northport.
Oh, yes.
What have Northport organizations received from the foundation?
We've made 21 grants directly in Northport, totaling, I think, $1.4 million in that neighborhood. Some of those I mentioned before, the Boys and Girls Club, I mentioned Lighthouse Baptist Church. Both of those programs are so critical to the young people. The Northport Concert Orchestra, a couple of daycare centers, South Biscayne Baptist Church, St. Paul's. So we've done quite a bit directly in Northport. But you have to realize a lot of grants we've made have had an enormous impact on Northport, even though the agency isn't located there. A couple of years ago, in conjunction with John Ringling's anniversary, we had all the children from the Northport elementary schools were able to go to the museum, many for the first time. Sticking with the arts for a minute, the Jazz Links program, which the Jazz Club has done to help teachers teach African American history, which is a tough topic. It's a tough subject area for some teachers. This jazz program has been enormously successful, particularly at the 2 Northport elementaries. The kids there have really enjoyed it. Okay,
that's great. We're now entering the 21st century. And to stay up to date, the Venice Foundation has created a web page.
Yes.
And perhaps you could talk about that, and they'll run the scroll line with the web page on there. And if anyone wants any more information about it, they can bring it up.
Yes, our website is quite new, and it's www.tvf.org, and you can learn how you apply for a grant, how you make a gift, everything you ever wanted to know, and you can email us from the site.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gene.
This is Gene Matthews, and we'll see you again next month.